turned her exact words. I don't know if you saw the following tweet, but I turned her exact words against her from that standpoint.
I want to bring in our political panel now. We have CNN political commentators Hillary Rosen and Tara Setmayer, and we have CNN senior political analyst Ron Brownstein. He's the editorial director of the National Journal. Okay, so Hillary, to you first. This is something where perhaps another candidate might be taking more of a risk than Donald Trump on this, but how does Hillary Clinton respond to this? And is this, do you think, potentially a win for Donald Trump when he seems to really get away with a lot of things?
Well, first we have to recognize Donald Trump is not running against Hillary Clinton. He's running against other Republicans for the GOP nomination, and they love the Clinton bashing. So that's the goal here, and that's what he's doing. He's trying to signal that he can do something in the general election, that there will be sort of a no-holds-barred. Hillary doesn't need to respond. I don't think she will, and she should, because when the time comes, if Trump wants to take on Bill Clinton's administration and the record for the economy, the record for women, and Hillary Clinton's policies on women, more power to him, taking on the greatest politician in the world. But right now, for Trump, this is all about, red meat to Republican primary voters. And, Hillary just needs to stay above it and ignore it.
Tara, I wonder what you think about that, how Hillary Clinton can either just maybe not push back on this. Maybe it's an issue she shouldn't even touch, but also whether there is any risk or if it's just reward for Donald Trump.
Well, you have to think about this. Donald Trump doesn't care. He has nothing to lose.
That's right.
He can say whatever he wants. He's done that already. He's already demonstrated that he'll say whatever he wants. Political correctness be damned, he doesn't care. So he has nothing to lose by going after Hillary this way, whereas Hillary Clinton has everything to lose. She's been preparing her whole life for this moment now, and it's right there. It's just so close for her, and she already lost it in 2008, so now this is her last chance. So for Trump to do this, he knows he can throw as many haymakers as he wants, and it doesn't matter because the tabloid campaign style works. People pay attention, they think it's entertaining, thus you see his popularity in the polls. But if he does this during a general election, let's say he becomes the nominee, I don't think that it's necessarily going to work because people love Bill Clinton, regardless of how you feel about him, regardless of whether calling him a sexist and his sexual misdeeds, which are well documented, are true or not. People don't care. He left office very popular. He's still popular now, and people don't look at that as something that's a disqualification. He's not running. Hillary is. There's plenty of other things on her record that we can go after her for than this. I think it's just tabloid campaigning, and it's part of Donald Trump's shtick.
Well, to that point, Ron, I mean, you saw, for instance, Rand Paul, before Hillary Clinton declared, sort of go after Bill Clinton. And that really seemed to subside very quickly. Republicans seemed to think, you know what, this isn't, we're not going to get into this. This may not be a winning avenue for us to go down. But Donald Trump saying that Bill Clinton is fair game. I mean, what do you make of that assessment?
Well, I think the first thing is to go back to a point that Tara made, is that we're talking about this. We're not talking about whether Donald Trump's plan on dealing with ISIS is plausible, whether his tax plan adds up, much less the argument between Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio over immigration. What Donald Trump has learned is that personal invective and personal attack just has an irresistible pull for the media. And so he's able to dominate the debate through this kind of ad hominem series of attacks on anyone who comes up on his radar. I mean, don't forget, he went after Trey Gowdy this weekend, the Republican member of the House. But beyond that, I agree also, this is really more about the Republican base than it is about dealing with a very real challenge he faces if he becomes the nominee. He has a substantial gender gap in assessments of him, and his approval rating among men is, his favorability rating among men is competitive with Hillary Clinton. Among women, only a third of women in the last CNN poll said they view him favorably, about 20 points behind Hillary Clinton. This is less, blaming her or attacking her for his behavior, I think is less about narrowing that gap than it is, as both Hillary and Tara mentioned, more about motivating the Republican base.
I want to play some new sound that we have in. Jeb Bush is out on the campaign trail in Florida. Certainly he's been struggling. Our latest CNN ORC poll has him at 3%. But he just moments ago had this moment that our producer there on the ground, Ashley Killow, flagged for us, because this was sort of a side of Jeb Bush, and she has been following him all the time. This is a side of Jeb Bush that she hasn't really seen, maybe a more confident and comfortable Jeb Bush. Let's listen.
The selfie is now the 11th Amendment of the It's inspired by our framers and founders, apparently. It is a requirement that you take one, and I do it with great joy in my heart. I don't know. Look, it wasn't that long ago that people wanted signatures on things, and now, forget that. I want my damn selfie, and I'm not leaving until I get it. So we spend a lot of quality time doing that and hoping the person has a long enough arm, or I will take over. Just for the record, young people do it better than older people. We'll go through a little training class here. It's cooler to do it diagonally rather than straight up. Remember that. And it's better to do it higher than lower because you look skinnier. Am I right?
Higher is better than lower. I do agree with Jeb Bush there. But so you see this sort of picture of him, guys, and then he's also kind of been going on the offense in some ways, too. I mean, what do you think at this point, Tara, of Jeb Bush's chances of maybe reviving himself, especially as his campaign and his super PAC is throwing all this money at the race now?
Jeb Bush has zero chance of coming back. Zero. Okay, the fact that he's now cracking jokes about selfies, he spent all of this money, he's still going down in the polls. It just came out today that Chris Christie has actually surpassed or pulled even with Jeb Bush in 3 national polls, and he's polling better than him in New Hampshire. New Hampshire's a key state, key early state. Bush is not polling well in any of the early states at all. He's in the lower tier of all those places. He's not going to come back. People have made up their minds when it comes to him. Donald Trump has just completely railroaded any chance that Jeb Bush ever had. And even his attempts there to seem like he's loose and trying to be cool, awkward, and people just are not, it's not resonating with the GOP voter base. He's the establishment, he's old news, and that is not what GOP voters want. So I feel bad for Jeb, but it's over for him. It really is.
I have to wrap this up, guys, but does anyone disagree with Tara on that?
Well, one thing about the selfie comment is that,
Hillary, go on.
But the one thing he did is he does create a lot of distance between himself and the voters. He always sort of acts like he's a little too smart, a little too intellectual, and a little too mature.
Yeah.
So, and that's dismissing people who actually want a selfie with him as he's campaigning in such a manner, I think almost says it all.
Or maybe he was saying he was a little nerdy about the selfies, had to learn about it. What do you think, Ron?
Look, I think it's really hard for him, but he's in the same position as the other center-right candidates. They have the one-or-done situation in New Hampshire for John Kasich, Chris Christie, Jeb Bush, maybe even Marco Rubio more than he realizes. All of them are in this kind of cage match to see who, if anyone, can consolidate the center-right, more white-collar side of the party that has been relatively more resistant to both Donald Trump and Ted Cruz. It's possible one of them emerges from New Hampshire as the champion of that wing and goes all the way to June. It is possible that wing never consolidates, and you end up with Trump and Cruz as the finalists in a kind of an outcome, I think, that would horrify many of the Republican strategists in Washington.
Yeah, we will see. All right, guys, thanks so much for being with us. Really appreciate it. And for the latest in politics and all of the presidential contenders, head on over.